Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful, wonderful turnout. We welcome you to our Meet the Owners event this evening. First things first, you will notice Terry isn't with us tonight, Terry Bramwell. Terry is away on a family holiday and sends his apologies, but I'm sure we are very, very well represented here by our top table. We'll start with our Vice Chairman, of course, Mr. Andrew Watson, our Chairman, Mr. David Blunt, our Chief Executive, Mr. Gavin Baldwin. Boots of admiration there for you, Gavin. And our first team manager, of course, a very, very warm welcome to Darren Moore. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're all familiar with what tonight is all about. Questions will be fielded from the floor this evening, but we are going to turn our attention to our manager first of all. And Darren, a very warm welcome to you, a very warm welcome back. You're a month in, you've been in the round the supporters already, but how do you assess your start as Doncaster Rovers manager so far?
Great.
And
obviously, I've been into a couple of the supporters, branches. I've been around, integrating myself straight back into the community and the football club, which I highlighted that when I came in and was accepted for the role. I knew that Club Doncaster is a club that's well versed within the community with the football club. So I said to the chairman and the board of directors that I'm just simply a cog in a well-oiled machine already, just trying to do his bit. So, and that's how he's just continued to do it. It's good to be back. The whole town around it's changed from since I've been here. It's ever growing, which is great to see. But it's nice to be back, and I feel settled in already, and just continue to work with a group of players and just continue to hopefully see improvement and continue to go in the right direction. But on an individual, it's just being part of a well-oiled machine in terms of going forward, and I just want to try and play my part in it.
Now, you've touched upon the infrastructure that's in place here at Club Doncaster. You've come from a very big football club, a club with massive tradition, as in West Bromwich Albion. How are the two comparable, or do you see comparisons, or how does the infrastructure there compare to how it does here?
Yeah, I think here certainly there's one clear message is so. We call it obviously the golden thread through here, but there's that real continuity, there's that progression, there's that inspiration in terms of coming here and being a part of it, and you get that from the off. I mean, in terms of myself coming here, I wanted to read up about how far the club had come in terms of that. So that is definitely aligned here. Sort of at West Brom, it was a same club within the community, but obviously the different projects that you've got here all align into one really. So I felt that here there's more continuity, if you like, in terms of where it's at. So it's wonderful to be a part of. It's something that I believe in sort of, football club and community working together. And as I said, I like what I see, I like what I feel, and it's just for me just getting on and managing the team as best as I possibly can in this wonderful environment.
Well, Darren was certainly loving what we're seeing so far. Tuesday night was a fantastic game of football, full of goals, full of great football, certainly from our side. And we thank you very much indeed for coming along tonight and giving us the time, and for the fantastic work you're performing so far. Thank you. Now, as Darren has touched upon there, we have lots of strands within the Club Doncaster environment. Obviously, we have the foundation, we've got the Fit Rovers. We've also got representation from the Doncaster Bells tonight. We're going to be hearing from the Chief Executive, Russ Green, a little bit later on. But I'm sure we're all bursting to ask a question this evening. So who is going to be brave and put their hand up first? There we go. I'm going to walk very far either. Good evening, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Brian, but I've got a couple of questions off the internet actually, or I send it out myself. From Sydney Rover in Australia, I presume. It's a big thank you for keeping the dream alive with the generous patronage of the club from the board of directors. Thank you very much. The question is from a lad called Sedgwick, DRFC. What is the plan to carry on in the future on the transfer front with a view to the planning for the end of the season, when we are likely to lose some loan players at least, and out of contract players?
I think looking at it, for us to look in from now to the end of the season, I think let's see how we go first. The first part of the season, I think let's not run ahead of ourselves before we start walking. In terms of those known players have been brought in here for a reason to try and stabilise us, to get that continuity going forward. We've got some wonderful young known players that's coming that you saw glimpses of them, and hopefully they'll just get stronger and stronger. We'll see what the turn of the year brings, the progression in the league, the fixtures, and that will determine all that, because what we are trying to do here at Club Doncaster is form good links with these so-called bigger clubs in terms of the young players that they've got there, and giving them the opportunity here to come here and perform. When they do come here, they're not just expected to come here and make the numbers up, they're coming here to come and perform. And we see them as first team out and out players competing to perform, and that's the messages we've got in them so far. They've come in here and integrated well, and long may that continue going forward. In my head, I've got a list full of young players that could come here. I've identified the ones that we've got in the building, they're performing well at the moment. We want that continuity, we want that consistency from them. And at the moment they're getting that, and they're developing themselves as well. So in terms of the future, for the careful succession planning, that will come. But for now, in terms of the ones who's coming in here, let's encourage them. They're doing a great job, and they're bringing some good value and stability to the team where it's at now.
Good start to the night. Just to make you aware, ladies and gentlemen, if we do have anybody hard of hearing or deaf, in fact, unfortunately, due to a last-minute cancellation, we have no signer in the room this evening. However, we will put out a transcript of this evening's Meet the Owners in due course, so we do apologise for any inconvenience caused there. Okay, our next question is coming from the left, the right, in the middle. It's coming from the front row, and then over to you, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Mark, and it's for the table. It's for Gavin, David, and Andrew, whoever wants to take the question really. But I want to speak about managers. I feel like in Darren Ferguson, top quality manager. He identified him. Obviously, he left, and then the same again. Grant McCann, fantastic appointment, did a great job, left. Now we've got Darren, another fantastic manager. But is this 12-month rolling contract really working? Do we need to sort of offer these managers, who are obviously good quality managers, who we're interviewing and finding, do we need to get them on a longer deal or something like that?
Well, we decided to. We decided to do a 12-month rolling contract because we believe that's good practice and principles. I think, are demonstrating that we can choose the right managers. That is for certain, because with Darren Grant and another Darren, then we believe we've got something that's going to take us forward. There's very little one can do if clubs come in from other parties that want to take them, because you have to appreciate that Grant was on a year's contract when he left, but he was desperate to leave. Now, maybe he'd be desperate to come back now, but but nevertheless we are where we are, and I'm not sure we can do much more than that, if I'm being frank. And we're delighted with our new manager, of course, and the way that we've begun the season in terms of results and in terms of the style of play. We're delighted at the moment. So, we do our best in choosing what we believe, and we go through a thorough process, I'm sure everybody knows, and that's brought anxiety in the past. The time that we've sometimes taken to a point, but we believe that's the right way, we get the right man at the end of the day. and then from there we'll just have to wait and see. But it's a long-term project we're on, and it's not helpful having short-term managers, if I'm going to be brutally honest, but I'm not sure what more we can do.
I suppose it's a double-edged sword, isn't it, David? You can give somebody a 4-year deal, as in, 3 or 4 year deal. Look at Steve Bruce down at Sheffield Wednesday, and does the Offman within 6 months. So it's just one of those things. I'm going to come back to you because a gentleman here wants to ask a question. What's your name, sir? And who's your question for?
My name's Gary, and it's for Gavin, really. Have you had any dialogue with the EFL about our Bolton game? And obviously, have you got any update as to what's happening?
Yes, we have had dialogue. The day that the game got forfeited, which is our position, we wrote to the EFL making our position clear, saying that our only option, we believe, was that we would get 3 points, and there needs to be a discussion on the goal difference because we don't want to get penalised. The teams around our game, for instance, both won 5-0, so should the goal difference be 5-0. We did offer a concession if there was a middle house, and that concession was that we would play against the team that was available on that day if we had to, and that was in consultation with obviously the manager and the board. Since then, we've had no communication back, but to be fair to the EFL, they have said that they wanted to sort the Bury situation out, they wanted to secure the ownership of Bolton, and they would expect to come back to us in the next couple of days. So I'd like to think we've been very fair to them, but we've been very robust, and we've made the options that we think fair and appropriate very clear, and have not entered into any conversations about the game being postponed. Does that answer your question, sorry?
Yeah, that's fine.
Lovely, thank you very much, Gavin. Got a gentleman. Promise we will fan out around the wings, but first of all, this gentleman here, what's your name and who's your question for?
Hi, my name's David. Going on to the question that was asked earlier, is with the people in charge and managers will come and go like we had seen, is there a way that we can keep stable with, say, like, we've got quite a amount of loan players in a minute. We've had managers come and go. Only thing I can see what can cause us any trouble this season is not being stable when people have to go. Is there anything we can do?
It's a really good question, and not only did we lose the manager, we lost the assistant manager, we lost the head of recruitment in one go. So it's a good question. We, as a board, and Darren, has highlighted it as well, are meeting now the transfer window's over to look at the structure that support us in recruitment. So having lost the head of recruitment, for instance, there is interesting questions because you talk about a lot of loan players, for instance. We had 5 last year, we had 5 this year, but we brought another one in to cover a long-term injury. So there's no more than last year. The interesting question is, because we've always had a policy of not more than 6 contracts falling off at the end of the season, and in theory no more than 4 young players. And I'm not saying this is the outcome, but just to stimulate conversation, teams that get promoted from League One have on average 7 loan players. So if we want to get promoted, do we have to change our strategy? Do we need to criticise ourselves and say, actually, we've got this parameter of 4, but do we need to change that? Does it need to be 7? Because a loan player, in my opinion, comes in, try before you buy, cover a short-term injury, or maybe sometimes, that they're a player that you couldn't necessarily afford if you're playing their full wage. And therefore, they, in theory, are there to make us better. And if we had, I'm making a point, I'm going to extremes now, don't necessarily mean it, if we had no loan players, would we be competing to be a top 6 team, is a question. And that's what we've got to get our head round now, in our next meeting, and reevaluate the parameters that we set. Because you're exactly right, when we first came together, we said no more than 4. And as I say, we have broken that. Some of it has been due to the situation you highlighted really well, lost Darren, lost Grant, and therefore there has been some short-termism with the recruitment. But I still, again, would stand by the time that this man here has done a brilliant team. The team we've got at the moment is exciting. It's quick, it's fast, it's exciting. He's done a brilliant job. So although it has been rushed, he's done a great job. But you're right, it's a good question to ask, and within it there's some deeper questions about, it sounds very right just to have no loan players, but where will we end up if we have no loan players? What's the right level for Doncaster Rovers? Because most of what we want to do is develop Doncaster lads to be Doncaster Rovers players. And there's all these things to throw into the mix. We're going to have that meeting. And after that meeting, quite happy to share the outcomes of that conversation with yourself. Again, sorry, does that answer the question?
I necessarily... I don't think it's a bad thing, long players. I think it could be a very positive thing, what we're doing has been shown with the players who are coming in and playing good football. But as fans, kind of, sometimes you can see long players coming in, but until we get to know like the players who are coming in, it can be quite scary for us as such.
Totally agree. The one thing we have done different is that we've gone for season-long loans, and therefore hopefully that allays some of those fears. But also, you know, Darren, in the best way possible, does an incredible amount of due diligence on a loan, and therefore when they come in, they're the right characters. As you can see by the lads at the back of the room, really popular in the change room straight away, got a rapport with the fans. You know, it's not as if they're coming in for 3 months, which we've been guilty of in the past, different rules, different regulations, etc. But this time, under the guidance of the board, you know, we looked at 1 year contract. So it is slightly different, but I do appreciate your nervousness of new lads coming in. Also, if we get the development, the academy right, which these guys have put quite a lot of money into over the last 12 months with FA Cup monies, for instance, then you'll see homegrown players coming through as well. And that, you know, everyone likes to see homegrown players in the team, and that's what one of our aspirations is, made in Doncaster.
Okay, thanks for your question. We're going to now move. A gentleman who does love a question. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, you alright? You're talking about the loan players. The two lads from Wolves, you have seen them over there. Is there any chance of getting them on? You said try to before you buy. Is there any chance of getting them before end of season? and the lad. And
They've just left the room, Dave.
And Mr. Sterling, is there a chance of him going till end of season?
I mean, we've signed contract. There's always a break clause in January by every loan, but we've signed the players to stay 12 months, yeah.
Okay, let's. I'll come back to you, sir, because obviously you've had the first bite of the cherry. So we've got three over here. So it'll save me legs. So I'm going to come to you first, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Brian and it's for Darren. Are you still thinking about filling the number 9 spot, which you have been looking for it according to Facebook? You're looking to fill the number 9. Any news on that?
Facebook. Yeah, listen, Brian, listen, what I have made and identified clearly was that, you know, those strike options that we've had, but, you know, I don't want to take away, you know, we've got 2 of the boys in the back of the room there that stepped in and filled that position adequately. You know, Niles played that role. We saw Keziah come on in that role. Kieran Sadler's played in that role, and they've all done really well for the club in terms of answering that. Since the number 9 from last year's departed the club, I've gone through 3 different players that's played in that role, and all 3 of them have put their case and put their front foot forward in playing it. They understand what's required in the role, they've played it well, and they've scored from the role, all 3 of them that have played in the role. So whatever they're going on, the way they're going on and performing, the way they're performing for the club, is great for them, and long may it continue. As I said before, if the right players come available for the football club, then we'll share it together as you know, the top table will share it, because we believe in going forward together. If not, you've seen us now, we've been working along and there's a lot of work to be done, and it's been done. But the players that stepped into that role have played really well and performed the role really well. So, you know, long may that continue. So it's not a knee-jerk reaction to go out there and do it. I have identified that we will possibly, if it's possible, but if it's not, you won't get us to sign the player for the sake of signing it, because it's not something that we adhere to and just for the sake of it.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you very much. We'll move swiftly on to this gentleman here. What's your name, sir? Who's your question for?
It's Alf and it's for Darren. Incidentally, I've been a supporter for 73 years. It's not a criticism, Darren. How can I criticise a man that's got a team that is unbeaten? It's just an interesting point that I see the back passing among the defence sometimes takes 10 minutes out of the game. Very frustrating because half the time we're losing it and the opposition are back at us. It's interesting to note that if you're 10 minutes from the end of a game and you're 1-0 down, all of a sudden the pace goes up a yard and all the balls end up in the box where of course you eventually score from. I'm not suggesting we just have a long ball game, but I would just maybe your views on trying to develop the continual square passing at the back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. When you look at the dynamics of the team, we've got players that like to play the ball, that pass the ball, that like to move the ball quickly along the floor. We move it along the floor with a purpose of obviously trying to get into the opposition final third to create chances for our attacking players. We're not a team that's going to go long because I don't believe we've got the players to do that. I believe that if you're going long, there's times in the game, yes, you do have to go long, but there's times in the game that we're working on certain patterns within the team to get us moving forward. I think I've been really pleased with the progression of the team. I've been really pleased with small steps but sure steps moving forward in terms of performance. I'm really big on the performance because I really feel like if you get a good performance, the results will follow. So in terms of that, we've seen that coming forward. Don't get me wrong, if we can play a forward passing one and it means it creates a chance, then I'll definitely take it. But sometimes, if it means you've got to build the play to get 4 or 5 passes in and it creates another chance, then it's important. I say to the players, if you're going to play it forward with one pass, that one pass is just as important that if you're going to play 5 passes forward. So there's a clear picture to us in terms of when we take the field of play. As I said to you, the team is always working and we're working together as a group that everybody knows exactly what's required for them in possession of the ball and out of possession of the ball, they know exactly what's required. And we always work on that every single day in terms of understanding the patterns of play that we're doing, and then we start understanding the terms, the roles and responsibility of each individual and the value that brings to the team as a whole, and that's what we continue to work towards.
Lovely. And final question from this side for the moment, from this gentleman. What's your name, sir?
Evening, I'm David. Thank you very much for coming tonight, all of you. It's great to see you all here. My question is about the 5-year plan to get us to the Championship. There was a 5-year plan. We've lost 2 managers in the last 2 years, and there's been quite a difference in the number of players that we've had over that time. Is that aspiration for the 5-year plan to get into the Championship still valid? You talked about being in the top 6. Surely we're aiming for the top 2 because you're guaranteed going up in the top 2, whereas in the top 6 you've got a lottery. So I wonder about your aspirations for the future.
To answer your question, David, we are given a fighting chance every year of getting in the top 6. We believe through research through the FL, if we get into the top 6, 4 out of 5 years, for instance, we've got a good chance of going up. The honesty shout from my point of view, and David may come in on this and disagree, if you give me an example of playing budgets, the difference between the top 2 and the top 6 in the past, when, for instance, Wigan were in our league, the difference in the playing budget between top 2 and the rest, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, was something like £6 million. And we can't put this club in that position, in my opinion, and we won't. But what we will do is give ourselves the best chance of being top 6 every year, having a really good season, really enjoying it, and you would back yourself. If you get into the playoffs enough times, it's going to happen. And then when we do go up, we've got the infrastructure, we've got the revenues, we've got this the structure within the stadium to get there. And as we've always said, and stay there, have some fun up there, have a few cup runs, etc. So I believe personally the risk of a top 2 budget is a risk too far, personally. But I don't believe that should be seen as any intention to not get promoted whatsoever. It's virtually the way that Burnley got promoted to the Premier League, for instance. They were very clear, give themselves best chance, and one of these years it'll happen, and when it's there, make the most of it. So, for instance, they improved the training ground, they spent money on the back of the structure, and therefore they stay there for a lot longer period of time. So that's my personal answer. I don't know if anyone disagrees.
Well, the only thing I would like to add to that, I think, is that we're trying to build something across everything, and that means trying to take everything forward in a positive way. There's no guarantees in football, no matter how much money or not money. You play on a Saturday and hopefully you've got a team and a team spirit that we've seen already that counts for a lot as well. We're hopeful of, and we're obviously unlucky last year in the playoffs. We were mightily unlucky as it turned out. And then what's happened, Charlton that did get promoted, I think a second or equal top in the Championship. You know, what we've got to do is to continue the progress, maybe slow, but nevertheless it's got to be progress going forward. And we had a top 6 position last year, no guarantees this year, but hopefully we can get into the top 6 and hopefully the top 2, but we'll have to wait and see how it all works out.
Great stuff. Thanks for your question. Going to move things along here to the middle. This gentleman deep in conversation here, but he tipped me the nod on the wing. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
My name is Andy. I think the question's for Darren. I think we hold the record for the oldest player to play a professional football match. Our former chairman, John Wright, I think he was 52. My question for Darren, but I'd be interested in any comments from the rest of the board, is do you think James Coppinger will beat that record?
How old is he? 52? We've spoken to the chairman, and me and David think about offering a new 5-year deal.
And I said it ought to be a 10-year deal.
Now, listen, James is, listen, I don't need to express words with James, what he means towards the club and the fans, and that he's ever impressive, ever hunger and desire for the club is ever more so. So long may that continue, and as long as James feels fine to continue and sort of be contributing to the team the way he is, then long may that continue.
Here. Good evening, sir. Your name and who's your question for?
Good evening, my name is Les. For the board, more or less not. You can have a minute off, Darren. All clubs like a big striker. We just sold on one John Marquis to Portsmouth. He could possibly go to the Premier League and start scoring goals down there. We've just seen a player go to Manchester United who's gone through Hull City, and they've got £9.25 million for him. Did we have any clause with John Marquis when he was sold on?
Simply yes, and good clauses.
Next question. Hi mate, what's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Rick and the question's for Darren. Congratulations, Darren, on how things are going, before I say anything else, so this is not any sort of criticism at all. But when you're talking about whether anybody else comes into the squad or not, are you happy that when the inevitable injuries and suspensions start to kick in, that what you've got now gives you the capacity to be able to cover vital people missing without it affecting the performance unduly?
Yeah, we've looked at the squad, and there is a bit of versatility in the squad. When I look at certain players and the positions what they can play, there is some versatility there, and there needs to be that way when you're working with the squad. So at the moment, I mean, I'm fine with the way things are looking at the moment, because sometimes when you come to a game and you look at certain players and you kind of almost talk yourself through the game, and sometimes you can't. You just talk yourself through possible scenarios. And if it does come about and you select him, can he play there? Can he drop in there? Can he come off the bench and cover that position? If I put all attacking players on the bench, does that mean because we've got enough defensive cover on the pitch? So those kind of things, scenarios come into your head really in terms of that. But we've tried to select a squad this season where there's a lot of versatility in the team. That there's players, got players in there that on average can cover 2 positions. There's some that can cover 3. And when you get that, that's a real blessing really. So looking at what it is at the moment, happy in terms of where it's at the moment, and hopefully, I hope you're wrong with those suspension and injuries.
Great stuff. Thanks very much for your question. Now, if you cast your minds back to our previous Meet the Owners, the questions cover a whole broad spectrum of things, from the Fit Rovers to the Foundation and the Doncaster Rovers Bells. And of course, the Bells are now part of Club Doncaster. We're delighted to have some of the team members with us tonight. Ladies, stand up. Give them a big round of applause, everyone. Absolutely over the moon. They asked me to get them to stand up there, but great to see you here, ladies. We also have the Chief Executive of the Bells with us tonight. That is Russ Green. And Russ, if you'd just like to come up here. Big round of applause for Russ, everyone. Now, we have a question from somebody who couldn't be with us tonight. This is Brian. I want you to talk about the Bells, but first of all, if you could answer this question. In view of the incorporation of Bells into Club Doncaster, what are the pros and cons of alignment of the Rovers junior girls teams with those of the Bells?
Well, that's basically a priority since we came on board. We did a root and branch all the way through the Bells, and we found out that we were lacking in that area really, and that's one of our big priorities this year. We're trying to form a pathway from the 10-year-olds right through to the first team and become probably one of the first women's academies in the country. We were finding that we were losing players at 16. They've gone through some great training right through to 16 through the RTC, and then they were disappearing. There were no opportunities for them really. So they've gone off to Lincoln, Leeds, everywhere. So we're now developing a plan for next season where we're going to have an education stroke football plan, and they become like an apprentice for 2 years, which will take them to 18, and then form a reserve team. So then they've got another platform before the Bells first team. So we're going to have that pathway from 10 right through. We're also building relationships up out and about with other clubs. We've been in dialogue now with quite a few local teams who are going to be basically our scouts, if you like. They're going to have players that they're going to recommend and look for players in local leagues.
The top table have already touched upon the fact that it's pivotal to the future of Doncaster Rovers that we get the youth involved. We have Doncaster lads playing for the Rovers. It's just equally as important for the Bells as well.
Yeah, I picked up on that, what Gavin said, and that's what we're trying to do with the girls as well. Get the local girls in. What we found, since I've came in, we've got relegated last season. It's been a difficult time really, because not only been relegated, we've been relegated to the Midlands League. So I think our nearest game's Burton. We were down at Long Eaton and Solihull last Sunday. So there's a lot of travelling in this league. So what does that do? That takes away a few girls who want to play, because they want to play local, if you like. Sundays are gone. So we lost quite a few players. We lost a player because we were relegated. She's looking at England ambition, so she's moved up a few leagues. So basically, we've had to do a restructuring really and form a new team. We've got the basics there now, mostly local girls, which is good. And we're just trying to kick on. It's going to be a difficult time. They thought it'd be a walk in the park, if you like, but we're finding it's difficult. And we've got to get the basics in before we can move forward, really, and make it sustainable.
We mentioned it though, the Bells launch, didn't we, during the close season.
Yep.
Doncaster Bells is synonymous with women's football, isn't it? And it's got such a rich tradition, a great history about it, but it's just fantastic to have it, getting back up there to possibly where it belongs.
That's another problem we're finding. Doncaster Bells are like synonymous with women's football all over the world, I think. And like I said, we've gone into this league, and I put in the scenario that Man United are now playing in League Two. We turned up at Long Eaton last night to read a programme. Here we have Doncaster Rovers Bells, 3 times FA Cup winners, 4 times Super League winners, and it's unbelievable. And every one of their players are up for a fight, if you like. So we've got 22 cup finals this season. Every game is a cup final for us, and we've got that to put up with as well, if you like.
But coming into the umbrella of Club Doncaster as well is a fantastic first step for the Bells.
Don't get me wrong, it's a massive honour to be part of Doncaster Bells, you know, and I think the players are taking that on board as well. I had a meeting with the players at the beginning of the season and said it's not just Doncaster Bells, we're now Club Doncaster. You know, you're representing the full club really, and I think that's been good. They've got that assurity behind the scenes now. This time last year, I don't think they had 5 players to start a season. You know, we've had a good pre-season this year. We're now attracting players, although we lost them. We're now attracting players because they can see what's happening behind the scenes as well, and the Bells name attracts them still.
And playing at Rossington, and I'm sure you'd like to tell everybody when the next game is.
Yeah, we're at Stade Roseau on Sunday, and we're playing Sporting Calcer from Derby. It's a great venue. We had options really, going back to the Keep Moat or staying at Rossington. And I think the girls are more accustomed to Rossington, and it gives them more of a chance to get up really. We'll probably look at that at a later date when we speak with the board, but Rossington look after as well. It's a great afternoon's entertainment. I think we had the highest gate in Tier 4 last home game, 3rd highest in all the country in Tier 3. I think we were second behind Stoke and Portsmouth, so the people are still there. We had a good following last night at Long Eaton, despite the weather, and yeah, we're just going from strength to strength now.
Fantastic. Thanks very much indeed for your thoughts. Rustering, everybody. I'm going to shame with season tickets still at £20. So, next question. Come on, Dave. What's it this time?
We've been on off road a little bit there with Bells. Now, can I just give a plug to Dons? They've got Randy Chase in it. It's like having Jamie Vardy in our team. I know a lot of people here don't know much about rugby league, but if you get down there, you'll be really entertained. This bloke is quality. So go down next season and see him. Okay.
Excellent. I'm sure Carl is thanking you very much indeed for that question. Was it? No, I'm joking. Right.
It's not a question, but just to further that, I don't think Jamie Vardy are getting our team.
Brilliant. Okay. Gentleman over here. Good evening, sir. What's your name? Who's your question for?
My name's John. I've been, like many people in this room, an Alliance member since that was formed. So there's 2 parts to my question, really. Firstly, I'd like a bit more information, if possible, about what's happening in the academy. I'll look on the internet and try to pick as much up as I can. And the second part of the question really is how much involvement does actually Darren or the manager for the first team have with what sort of liaison there is between the academy players and the first team?
Perfect question. Your questions come absolutely timely because just today we've had that very meeting. Tony Cook, myself, Gary McSheffrey, John Schofield, Jamie Smith, all in the room. We spoke last week and we've devised a programme now, certainly for the development squad. The under-18s have a fantastic programme. The development squad needs their programme, they need more contact time. We was averaging the contact time with the development players was 7.5 hours. With a 1 game week, 9.5. It's not enough. So the contact time should be up to at least 10.5 hours to possibly 11 hours going upwards. So we've had the meeting today and addressed the development squad because sometimes they can feel they're in a limbo, if you like. And since I've arrived at the club, they have been a little bit because I've stepped. John Schofield's come to work alongside me as a first team coach, and Gary McSheffrey's kind of stepped up from the under 18s to manage under 23s. Absolutely vital that them development players get the right hit, and ultimately that is the most hardest working group in the club because ultimately they're the ones what's got to go over and beyond to get in and show that consistency. Now from the development squad there's many different ways to get into the first team. One of the ways for them to get in might be a loan option to go to clubs, what you're getting from a long match day, experience, crowd, dressing room, body becoming more robust to the demands of the league, and also going up against experienced players, even at the level that they're at, to further enhance their coaching, education and football knowledge and return the pitch with the aim of coming back, that physically, mentally, they're that step nearer to getting towards nearer the first team. Also at the same time, there's another route might be staying in the building and training with the first team squad on a regular basis and developing that way. So there's many different ways, but the development squad is an absolute key aspect in terms of developing your own, in terms of moving forward. And that's where we've come together as a group now, and there's been a program being implemented and put in place to up that contact time. And they've got to work, we've looked at parts in the program where time might be spent off that we feel they should be working, and they will be working really. So I think the question's timely. I think it's a great question. It's something that I believe in. I'm not afraid to play young players, as I've demonstrated before, and certainly they clearly know and been identified now in terms of going forward, exactly where they are and where the club feels and think of them going forward, because they're really important moving forward, and they will receive that program in the next 7 to 10 days.
Excellent, thank you very much for the question.
Sorry, Jonathan. You're right as well about fighting for information. I think I'm looking for Hayley or Sean. They've done a brilliant job in creating a new website exclusively for the Academy, which has been recently launched. So I don't know, Sean, whether you could just say a few words, please.
Launches tomorrow. On the mic, So to say I've done a brilliant job is a bit of an extreme, because I've done nothing. Hayley's done all the hard work. But there's a new Academy website which launches tomorrow. There'll be links obviously from the main Doncaster Rovers website. There's going to be lots of information on there, but it is kind of finding a balance, because there's also lots of safeguarding restrictions when you put information out about obviously under 18s. So, but you should find more information on there, which should help your cause.
Cheers, Sean, thank you very much. And Hayley, of course, not leaving anybody out. Okay, this gentleman had his hand raised. We heard from him to start with. We're going to hear from you again.
Just to follow on about the Academy, actually. Has the club got any aspirations to become a Category 2 Academy? And if so, is it a lot of cost towards the club?
You've answered your question in that. Have we got aspirations to be a Cat 2 Academy? This is a positive answer, but we don't know. Because at the moment we're working through, is it best to be the best Cat 3 Academy possible? Or do you try and be a Cat 2 and chase the Cat 2 Academy status? To chase the Cat 2 Academy status comes with a lot of expense for things that you could argue are just to pass an audit and don't produce players of the future. So is it better, like the board have done this year, for instance, if you see the number of development team players that are contracted, is it better to put money into things that we believe will benefit Doncaster Rovers and Doncaster Rovers players? So Tony Cook, who's new Academy manager, is doing an exercise at the moment to try and understand that. And we've blindly, and maybe a criticism of ourselves, have said in the past we want to be Cat 2 because it just sounds better. But there's an argument to say Cat 3, best Cat 3, choosing your own destiny, choosing where you spend your money, could be a better argument as long as you choose the appropriate games. And give you an example of that. Part of a Cat 2 at the moment is you have the indoor dome. We've had initial costings of that at £1 million. Well, what we've done this year is put money into recruitment in Doncaster and wider of the younger players, because we think that will benefit Doncaster Rovers more at this time. And hence, the number of contracted players at 23 level has gone from 5 to 11, for instance. And we work through the academy age groups. So it's a dilemma. It's one we're working through. And again, we will feed back the outcome of those conversations.
I think after watching the Category 2 side Barnsley play our under 16s last week, I think you've got it right, to be honest with you. It's about getting the lads in rather than what they've got to say.
Thank you.
Hi, it's just a question for Gavin. Gavin, I watched an interview with Danny Cowler recently, and he identified us as a top 6 club in this league and a big club in this league, and I think we are, in my opinion. But is there anything in place to improve the gates? We need more fans coming through that door. In my opinion, we do need to improve the gates.
I'm going to step in, but again, I don't want to put Sean on the spot because Sean works with the fan numbers. He'll talk you through some numbers of increased season tickets, increased match day tickets, and initiatives such as the 4 awards we won last year to give ourselves best chance. So Sean, can you just speak about some of the initiatives you're leading on, please?
Yeah, so in terms of numbers, season tickets this year, both value and numbers, are higher than they have been since last time I was in the Championship. So what we are doing is converting people who come to a few games to actually buy a season ticket, which is obviously positive. In terms of match tickets and getting more people to go on match tickets, it counts both home and away. So from a home perspective, you'll hopefully have seen that we won Family Club of the Year last year. We've one of only 3 EFL clubs who've won it, Family Excellence Gold and Family Excellence of the Year every year for the last 10 years. Other clubs come to us about how we engage the younger audience and learn from. And some of the away support that's got, increasing the gate is also making sure that away fans feel respected and have a relatively good time, although not with the result on the pitch. So we also won Best League One away experience as well. And what we've actually seen is more people coming again and again. So I think what we're doing is working. What we've shown in terms of home tickets and home season tickets actually increased year on year, and the first time they've done that both at the same level as I would say the last time I was in the Championship.
But, and Sean is in the room at the moment, if anyone has got ideas for improving attendances, because I mean, obviously it's a brief meeting, this, and Sean's just given headlines. But for instance, it would be good to have ideas in the room. We've just launched the ambassadors scheme, for instance, so we're getting into the villages. We've got a lot of schemes launched, and Sean's just given headlines there. We are having to buck the trend of attendances across the country, because if you look at the country, attendance is going like that with iFollow, the ability to watch games on social media, YouTube, etc. So we need you guys to support us in that maybe, and maybe one of the things Sean can do is have a meeting that's solely about that, and any volunteers greatly appreciated.
One thing I've noticed, Gavin, just coming back to my question really, I mean, Doncaster is a massive place. You're going out to Mexborough, up to Redfern. I don't think the support buses cover all of Doncaster. Good enough. You've got Norton, you've got Conisbee, you've got Mexborough. A lot of fans are out there. Can we somehow get some support bus or some more? We need more. You've got your Redford branch. What about a Dearne Valley branch? Tickle. There's lots of places in Doncaster.
Exactly the sort of thing that we need. So, Sean, are you all right to look for volunteers, come up with these ideas, and let's report back to this meeting, or before then anyway, on the ideas that we're going to lead on. But thanks for that. Absolutely brilliant.
Right, our next question from the gentleman beside me. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Alan, and it's to Darren. When we're defending corners, we seem to, I think it started last year mainly, that we never seem to have anybody else out in case we get a ball to break away. Something with a bit of speed. What's your thoughts on that?
What do you mean, like leaving somebody high up the pitch? Okay. This year for me, it presents, you are right, because I do like to leave people up the pitch. This year with the rule change, I think has caught a lot of head coaches on that, really, in terms of this new, potential hands-on in the penalty box and everything else. So a lot of coaches, managers have been going zone. It is an area that I am looking at, and the coaching staff. It is a good point, but it's not a point that we've not considered, because we have considered potentially leaving people up the pitch. So it's a good observation point of view, and we are looking into that. With that comes the roles and responsibilities and the dynamics of the team. First things first, you want to stop it from getting back in there. And then the second one, but you are right, from the second phase, if you've got somebody high up the pitch, it might mean you can counter-attack the opposition as well.
Lovely, thanks for that, and thanks for the answer from Darren. Okay, we're going to make our way all the way across here tonight. How are we doing? Nice to see you. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
Name's Nick, and the question's for Darren. It's about Victor and Anichebe, if I got his name right. He's obviously coming to train with the lads, Darren, but is he here to get fit and move on, or is he here to stay with us if he gets himself fit?
I think it's an opportunity for both parties really to have a look. I mean, he is doing that at the moment. He's here training. getting fit. But it's a view for both parties, and he's come in. The big thing for me is integrating well with the players. He knows what we're all about, but we put him through his paces really and turned to that. So if he thought it was somewhere to come in and rest on his laurels, he's found that wrong, because we work hard here, and that's exactly what we've been doing with him really. So it's great to have him in here. He's been great for the players have been great for him, and that's where it's at the moment really.
Okay, thanks very much for your question. I'm going to come back to you because someone's been waiting very, very patiently over the far side. Where's he gone now? And his hand up. There he is. Hello, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
I was wondering about the making the fans all come to this side on such of these smaller cup matches. Another one is that I notice on all the floodlights is at least 6 bulbs out on each floodlight. I was saving money for more players, or what?
Marie's looking at me, begging me not to pass it to her. I'll ask the one on bringing the fans to this side. Yeah, reference, when we do the leasing.com matches, got that right. For instance, we do try and condense the crowd. We do, and part of it, to be honest with you, is it saves money, and it does save considerable money. But also, we have had feedback that it improves the atmosphere, because if you can imagine the crowd from Tuesday spread around 4 stands, it wouldn't have been great. But I would say that any of these moves that we do is through consultation with the supporters board and with the various supporters groups that we meet with regularly. So we do not take decisions such as closing stands on our own autonomously without going to the supporters that we consult with, and there's a few of them in this room that would hopefully verify this, to say what do you think, what's the options, etc. One of the mistakes we made, being honest, was in the weather caught us out for one of the friendlies and everyone was baking hot, had sun in their eyes. So it wasn't a bad thing. So that's something that we've learned, and we're going to have a look at for pre-season games in the summer again. But again, everything we do like that is in consultation with the supporters board, who we thank. They give up their time free of charge and spend considerable times with us. So it's not a decision we make to the fans, hopefully it's with the fans. And as I say, the feedback we have had has been all positive, improving the atmosphere. If that's okay.
I'll do the floodlight one tonight.
What about the floodlights going?
Yeah, I'll do that one.
Cheers. Each one saves about a £5. I was going to say, we're under pressure from that end of the table to knock more lights out. But Marie is going to answer this. She's chomping at the bit, actually.
Oh, wow. It's all right, Marie, I'll come to you.
Yeah, come on. I'll not see you struggle with that one, Gavin. To reassure fans, the floodlights perform tremendously well. When on full capacity, they would exceed UEFA Championship levels. We have them tested every 2 years. They had a test just before the start of the season. They're still far in excess of what is required for this league and the Championship. And therefore, you can see where they are in the stadium. It's a significant amount of work to get up there, change the lamps, put new lamps in. And so we take the decision that we'll review the level of lighting, the position of the lighting, and until it actually needs changing, we would rather hang fire and spend the money when it's needed and do it all in one go. So to reassure you, Darren, to reassure you, you're not going to have any shadow spots on your pitch. It's all well covered. So yes, we will be looking at it in the next season or two, and hopefully get a few Champions League games then.
Wow. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, we're heading very, very close to the full-time mark, so we've got time for a couple more questions. Heard from this gentleman earlier on. No need to stand, so it's fine.
Yes, from the board really. A commercial question really. Could you tell me how much difference there is from payments from the FA if you go up a division?
About £8 million.
8 million. So can I put it to you then, if you've got a side that, shall we say, halfway through this season or 3 parts through this season, look quite capable of getting in the top 6, then can I suggest possibly £500,000 purchase of 2 players might just get us there? Commercially it might make sense.
To be fair, the board, led by Andy, David, programme a meeting specifically for that purpose, and you'll have seen that our spends in January at different times reflect that to give it a push. We met with Grant last year, what's going to give us the final push, etc., etc. So that meeting is already programmed in for that very reason. I don't know whether you want to just comment on some of those meetings, Andy.
Yeah, well, we have regular, obviously, DRFC board meetings, Club Doncaster board meetings, and the spend is obviously monitored and very, very carefully. But we plan forward to January, as we did last year, and gave the team a push when needed. And obviously last year we made the playoffs and were very, very close to achieving the playoff final. I think very unlucky against Charlton, to be honest. So we think we cover everything meticulously and plan short-term, medium-term, long-term. We'll look 6 months ahead, at the end of this season, next season, and 3-4 years hence. It's not just we don't fire from the hip. Everything is planned meticulously with Gavin's leadership and the team behind us, the team who work behind us. So we think we give ourselves the very best chance of achieving. I'm not saying we're going to achieve the top 2. Top 2 is very difficult, no matter how much money you spend. You look at the teams that have come down this season, Ipswich, you've obviously got Sunderland still there, Portsmouth, Peterborough have turned the corner a little. There's some really good teams, top teams, but we consider ourselves to be in that bracket as well. And certainly our aim is to achieve top 6 this year. And we believe with the contracted players that we've got, which form the basis of the team, but the loans that have been brought in as well, that we have a great chance of achieving top 6. You look at the performance on Tuesday, I thought second half particularly, the football was excellent. Some of the most exciting football I've seen us play for 2-3 years. And that some of the lads, our own lads obviously, but some of the lone players as well. Ennis, Sterling when he came on, I mean Cameron John has been, in my opinion, a revelation. But it's not all about new players, it's about existing players. You look at somebody like Ben Whiteman, for example. You know, we could have sold Ben in the summer. We could have sold him to Hull. Hull made an offer for him, but we chose not to, particularly because it was Hull, obviously. But he is, you know, he's the captain, he's the future, and he's a very good footballer as well. So we decided to resist that offer, and you know, hopefully we can negotiate a new contract with him. So there's lots of factors in there, but we feel we will have best chance to achieve top 6 and play entertaining football. The fans want to be entertained, and certainly I do. And I think we've got the right manager in place now. You know, we went through a rigorous process to select him. Yes, people think as David said earlier, I think, you know, it might take 4 or 5 weeks to select a manager, but you have to go through due process. You know, we can all go, oh, he's great, we'll pick him. But you've got to go through process, you've got to pick the right man. Darren is the right man, we believe. So far, things look good. You know, we've got the 3 points against Bolton, it'd be even better, wouldn't it? You know, we've got 11 points, game in hand, 3 off top. But anyway, so that's where we are, and looking forward to Saturday.
Just got time for the final couple of questions, first of which from this gentleman here.
Could you tell me how much it's costing us to police all these games and changing times and such as that?
I'm going to look at Marie again now, but what I will say is that we have an excellent relationship with the police. You will see that a lot of the games are police free. Martin O'Hara at the background somewhere is leading the IAG, and therefore he keeps us honest to make sure we're doing the right things, because ideally we don't want the police here. Not for any negative reason, but one, I believe it makes for a more friendly atmosphere, it makes for a more enjoyable place to come, and also it saves costs. But our police costs, I would say, are comparable to other clubs in the region are very, very low. But I'll look to Marie just to make a bit of sense of that.
Ron, come on. Get your exercise in.
Great for my stepsis tonight.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, we do work really hard. There's a significant amount of planning goes into to a local derby, particularly. I've been working quite closely with Martin. We've been, in communication with the police quite significantly. Since our safety team came in post with Sam, who's hiding at the moment behind me, and Fraser, who's his deputy. They're what I like to refer to as poacher turned gamekeeper. Both worked with the police, know how it works, and are incredible in terms of planning a safe operation so that you guys get to enjoy the match and don't have the impact of anybody who's intent on spoiling that. Myself and Martin have talked about the early kickoffs. We don't want to be in a position where it impacts on yourselves and genuine fans who just, you like the 3 o'clock kickoff. That's when football should be. Unfortunately, anybody who attended the match 2 seasons ago will be aware that there were some coming together as fans, and significant work's gone into ensuring that risk is minimised again for this match. There are a number of pros and cons to early kickoffs, and we do try and create a balance on that. What we have managed to do, I would say certainly Sam and Fraser's input has more than halved what was a 6-figure policing bill, and when other South Yorkshire clubs get around the table with us, they're absolutely stunned at how low we manage to keep our policing costs, because we invest heavily in stewards. We look at the stewarding training, and a significant amount of work goes into planning so that we manage the operation safely rather than relying on third parties. That's the way we want to go. I think we've been really successful in that, and hopefully we'll see more success again this weekend.
Lovely, thank you very much for that, Marie. We've got time for just one more question. I promised it to this young man here. What's your name?
James, it's for Darren. What made you come back? What made you apply for the job?
How's that at work? Now, obviously, I wanted to apply for the job because, number one, obviously my connection here as a previous player, but and I really mean this now. It was me looking on the club website and seeing the many different things the club done within the structure of the community, and all the different various. We got many of the foundation team, the rugby's here, the girls. Doncaster Rovers here. So there's loads. Keep fit, walking football, at the college, all these projects that I looked into, and I just thought, yeah, and obviously, the team and how the team had done. So I wanted to apply for the job for all those reasons, but also as well as to come up here and try and put together a competitive team that the fans are happy with, that are challenging the right side in the division and competing and ultimately, I'm competitive, just like us all in here. I'm competitive to try and bring that here, and as I said to you before, just to be part of what I think is already a well-oiled machine here in trying to help move it forward and continue moving in the right direction. So to be here for me, it's an honour. Obviously, previously a former player at the club, and sort of to manage the club, it's an honour. So and we continue to work.
Excellent, thank you. We're going to give the last word to Gavin. Gavin would like to.
I just wondered, I'm going to put someone else on the spot if that's okay. One of the things that the top table is really proud of is the foundation and the work it does in the community. And we've got Lucy and John at the back. And I just wondered whether you could do some more steps go and have a quick chat with them and just let them tell you about some of the results that they've got, because we are proud of what's been achieved.
Lucy and John, come over here, come on. I'll meet you halfway. Give a bit round of applause. Guys, good to have you. So, just for anybody who doesn't know what the foundation does, just give us a very, very brief outline as to what happens.
Okay, well, I'll let you do that, and then I'll say I'm 4 days in, and I just want to say how impressed I am by everybody that I've spoken to. And the only thing I can think to say is that the foundation changes lives. So I know the club does, I can hear that, but actually what the impact of the work the foundation is doing is just incredible. So I'll let John tell you a little bit more about it.
Thank you very much. Firstly, it's a great honour to be here, and also we get some fantastic support from the board, from the players. So from the top down, anything we do across kind of Doncaster is supported, fully supported by the club. I think that's a fantastic place for us to be in as a foundation that are trying to change lives across Doncaster. So first and foremost is a thank you to these guys, and to also the players that we have kind of come across and attend our visits, which to some people, when we are trying to change lives, is a fantastic thing for them to see. I think personally, I would also like to thank Matty. He comes regularly to our sessions as well. I'm going to embarrass him now, but he's kind of a real ambassador for what we do in and across Doncaster. In terms of what we do, we've got 4 key themes of work, and you'll see a sheet that was on your seats here today. That kind of outlines some of the impact that we have across the community and across Doncaster. And our themes of work are education, so we've got a sports college that's here within the Keepmoat Stadium. We've got a health and wellbeing department, and we've got 4 volunteers from Fit Rovers here today. So if you want to hear anything about that programme, please feel free to speak to them. We've got our schools and participation department, which covers all of the schools and outreach work that we do across Doncaster. And finally, we've got our engagement programmes, which covers our NCS and our Kickstart programmes, which over 600 young people kind of went through across the board. So from me, hopefully that's a little bit of an insight in terms of what we do. And as a personal thank you from me to all the support that we get from fans and we get from the board as well, because we feel that we can change lives through the brand and the reach of the football and the community clubs, the Dons, the Bells. Hopefully we can continue to do that.
Lucy and John, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our media owners has drawn to a conclusion, but before we do wrap things up, our thanks for their time, for their great thoughts. That's Andrew Watson, David Blunt, Gavin Baldwin and Darren Moore. And take over this evening. You know, we always try and get around everybody as much as possible and have a broader spectrum of questions as possible. I sincerely hope we've done that tonight. Our thanks as well go to all the foundation members of the Club Doncaster Sports College. We've got lovely Laura at the back there with the DNA cards, just in case you haven't got yours as yet. And don't forget as well, a big South Yorkshire derby this coming Saturday. Don't sleep in. It's a 12:30 kick-off. We look forward to your company then. Thanks for your attendance tonight.